again his face. Yeah.
Are we on?
Okay, so good evening. Welcome to the Tibet Center. We will begin by reading the prayer for the spreading of the teachings throughout the length and breadth of the West by Venerable Rinpoche. By the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems, and of the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddhist teachings flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West. For all the people living there, together with their near ones, who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them, may all conditions adverse to their practice of the pure Dharma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon. And especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the Victorious One's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness. May they never be oppressed by masses of interference and adverse conditions, and may this happen just as we have wished. All right, the Heart Sutra. Thus have I heard once, the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of the Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi, which examines the Dharmas, called profound illumination. And at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas of their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, "How should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge?" And Avalokiteshvara answered, "Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness itself is form. Emptiness is not separate from form, form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Thus all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing, they are neither impure nor pure, they neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge. And since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. They transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future by means of transcendent knowledge, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra of calm to all suffering, should be known as truth, for there is no deception. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is Om Tayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisvaha. O Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should learn profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, profound transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering in the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praise the words of the Blessed One. Now to generate bodhicitta. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. So, it's very crowded in here.
You can sit on the floor if you...
So, we are discussing Beyond Religion, Ethics for a Whole New World, for a whole world, by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I'm going to move this a little bit back. We can bring this down. Okay. So we have been discussing compassion, and as I said last night, His Holiness talks about how our survival depends on others. Our survival from when we are born depends on the love that our mothers show us. We wouldn't survive if our mothers didn't protect us. On our own, we would die after maybe a few days, if not less. And as we go through life, we are constantly dependent on others, and so it is their kindness towards us that enables us to survive. And so we derive a certain delight, a certain happiness, a certain appreciation, but particularly, let me find the no, I'm not going to find. But the point that I'm trying to arrive at is the one that His Holiness is making in saying, though the love that others show us, the compassion that is shown towards us by others is important. But actually, we derive greater joy, greater happiness, greater benefit from the love and the compassion that we show towards others. And that has to be cultivated. There's the natural love that we show towards those whom we are close to, whom we love. But the love that we have to show towards those beyond that sort of inner circle, that's something that we have to work on. And we work on it not just for the sake of others, but we work on it what His Holiness is saying here is that is the true essence of our happiness. So levels of compassion on page 50. Generally, I distinguish two levels of compassion, writes His Holiness. The first is the biological level I have been describing, exemplified by the affection of a mother for her newborn child. The second is an extended level which has to be deliberately cultivated. While compassion at the biological level can be unconditional, like a mother's love for her baby, it is also biased and limited in scope. Nevertheless, it is of the utmost importance because it is the seed from which unbiased compassion can grow. We can take our innate capacity for warm-heartedness and, using our intelligence and conviction, expand it. Now, it's interesting, I had never really read that or seen that the sort of innate compassion we have is the seed for the greater compassion that we work towards, that we work at cultivating towards others. Generally speaking, we have a strong tendency to reserve our concern for those closest to us, and then to expand it to our wider community, those with whom we share language, locality, or religion, for example. This is quite natural and can be quite powerful. When people are strongly motivated by dedication to a single cause or by feelings of closeness to a particular group, they're capable of great things. Such feelings can bring people together and help them transcend their narrow self-interest. In this sense, these feelings are beneficial. Unfortunately, however, such affinities, whether based on family, community, nation, language, or religion, are often accompanied by heightened discrimination between us and them. The problem is that when we see ourselves only in terms of this or that group, we tend to forget about our wider identity as human beings. So, yes, our being part of a team, yes, our being part of a group, yes, our being part of a community is helpful in cultivating a sense of responsibility towards each other, love towards each other. However, a quality of that identification as a particular group seems to be that it excludes others. And sadly, often that identity as a particular group, one of the techniques by which groups intensify that feeling of closeness and mutual support is by creating some kind of distance between that group and other groups. A key element in biased feelings is that we can call what we can call attachment. Once at a scientific conference in Argentina, a mentor of my friend Francisco Varela told me that as a scientist, he should not be too attached to his own field of research, as this might distort his ability to assess evidence objectively. Hearing these words, I immediately felt that they should also apply to the religious domain. For example, as a Buddhist, I should strive not to develop excessive attachment towards Buddhism. I should strive not to develop, for to do so would hinder my ability to see the value of other faith traditions.
Great statement.
Not only to see the value of other faith traditions, but to have true love and consideration towards those following a different faith. Furthermore, when there is an element of attachment, that attachment to our group, to our community, to our religious brothers and sisters, our affection and concern for others are often dependent on the way those others relate to us. We feel concern for those who care for us and treat us well, but when our affection is dependent on the fulfillment of our own goals and expectations, which we project onto others, it will always be very fragile. So long as others meet our expectations, everything's fine. But as soon as they do not, our feelings of affection can easily turn to resentment and even hatred. So I think that we all can identify with those things and can really see I think we can recognize these things, but we should also view them as challenges, as opportunities to work on ourselves, to really see beyond our groups, our communities. And I don't think that this is something that we need to advertise that we're doing. I think that it's something that we can do all alone, quietly, in our analytical meditation, in our contemplative meditation. If we think about the way we identify as a particular community, as a particular group, as a particular family unit, whatever it is, and we see how we think of ourselves and we view others, we can begin all by ourselves without, this is not like, going into politics or anything like that. It's just working at developing a feeling of responsibility that goes beyond our own group, coming to recognize the way we have identified as a group and coming to see the way that has limited us, has turned us sort of inward, has created a boundary, a barrier between us and them, and work at recognizing the importance of stretching that to include the thems. So as we went over this yesterday, conversely, extended universal compassion is not rooted in any self-regarding element, but rather in the simple awareness that all others are human beings who, just like oneself, aspire to happiness and shun suffering. So that's really something that we can do on our own. It's really something that we can do just sitting and thinking about it. Really, I'm going to read it again. The whole idea that extended, universal compassion is rooted in the simple awareness that all others are human beings who, just like oneself, aspire to happiness and shun suffering. With this kind of compassion, our feeling of concern for others is completely stable and unaffected by the attitude they may have towards us. Even if others threaten or verbally abuse us, our compassion for them, our concern for their welfare remains. Genuine compassion, therefore, is directed not at people's behavior, but at the people themselves. Now that's tough. We know that
Yes.
that's tough. It's something that I think that it's one of those little, let's say, kernels or nuts that we have to work over. We can identify it as we're just doing now. Genuine compassion, therefore, is directed not at people's behavior, but at the people themselves. Okay, that's something to remember, and it's something to think about, and it's something to go over and work on over months, years.
You think about the times when our behavior wasn't so great. We thought it was okay, but other people were looking at us from the outside. And yet, for instance, Rinpoche, he'd look at you at the same time, even though you were acting like a jerk. He would hold on, and then if he could, he'd give you some, do something to throw you off that. But he didn't reject you, He saw you at a deeper level. It's amazing. We should do that to others. But we don't. But I know that we're supposed to. It's true. Not at their behavior, but the people themselves. It's a big.
And remembering that people's misbehavior, people's, I don't want to use the word evil, but non-virtuous behavior is engaged in the belief that they are going to attain some kind of happiness by that. No one goes into things believing that it's going to bring unhappiness to themselves. They do it in the belief that it's going to bring them happiness. That's what, and in that sense, they are their motivation is just like ours. Hopefully, we are working at developing a virtuous motivation that really has as its priority helping others. But basically, what motivates us in our daily routine is a wish to please ourselves, is a wish to protect ourselves from being harmed. That's natural. And those who do cause us harm, those who do, whether it's in the workplace or wherever it is, the motivation behind what they're doing is that same motivation.
But ignorantly, they think that's a good path.
And when they act, someone may get angry at us, someone may cheat us, someone may act in all sorts of ways, but they are the victims of their afflictions. They are the victims of the fact that they think that will bring them happiness. And they are the victims of habits, sort of distorted habits or distorted ways of thinking that lead them to actions that are going to cause them to suffer in the future. So actually, we should develop compassion towards them. We should develop some feeling of well, we can feel, oh, poor thing, he is acting in this way. He is a victim of his own pride, his own arrogance, his own whatever it happens to be. we can develop what is compassion? It's the wish to remove their suffering. And so, of course, we would wish to remove that affliction that causes them to suffer. So, of course, it's hard to do when we're faced by someone who's cheating us or who's doing. But when we sit and meditate, that's what we should be doing. That's
in our own little theater.
difficult.
But repetition, our old prejudice against that behavior will dissolve. When you see the logic, he's giving you the logic of it. So there's a firm basis. It's not just be a good boy. No. So
I mean, we
logic
don't.
is impeccable in these texts.
We don't go to the extent of thinking, bring it on, bring on the hardships.
No,
But when we're sitting in our meditation,
yes.
There we can actually get to a point where we're thinking, you know, my life is pleasant, my life is okay. I recognize the value in these practices, in these analytical forms of meditation. I wish for an opportunity to take difficult situations to transform them. Now, that's a tough one, but we can arrive at a point where we actually, you know, when anyone gets angry at us, when anyone cheats us, when anyone does anything harmful to us, of course, our immediate reaction is. However, when we're calm and when we're sitting and we're reading about the value of patience and the way in which patience is only derived by being challenged, at that point we might even feel a wish to have those challenges. Not too much. Doesn't quite work that way. However, the idea of that at least opens us to, when challenge comes along, saying, okay, here's an opportunity. Here is, we usually fail when the opportunities come along.
But some don't. Holiness, with all the work, all the trouble thrown at him over so many years, is still there being at everybody.
Yep.
That gives you a lot of confidence.
And so he says, since resentment, anger, and animosity bring us no benefit, it is clearly in our own interests to underpin our attitude to all others with this kind of genuine, unconditional, and unbiased compassion. And doing so will certainly bring us benefit. What I'm calling for is that we move beyond our limited or biased sense of closeness to this or that group or identity, and instead cultivate a sense of closeness to the entire human family. The attitude of us and them can and often does lead to conflict, even war. Much better and more realistic is the attitude of we. Good evening. So, to some, this idea of universal compassion may sound too idealistic and possibly even religious. As for its being too idealistic, I don't think it is. Many things that we now take for granted, such as the notion of universal education. I think we have copies.
Darren, can you have a copy bring out a copy of Beyond Religion?
Yeah.
Buddy wants to read it.
Page 52. No, but it's bad karma for him. Okay, so we're at the bottom. To some, this idea of universal compassion may sound too idealistic and possibly even religious. As for its being too idealistic, I don't think it is. Many things that we now take for granted, such as the notion of universal education, would have sounded too idealistic in the past, but now are thought of as entirely practical and indeed necessary. As for the suggestion that the idea of universal compassion is religious, I disagree. Certainly, some people's selflessness and service to others are rooted in their religious devotion, such as serving God. But at the same time, there are countless others in the world today who are concerned for all humanity, and yet who do not have a religion. I think of all the doctors and aid workers volunteering in places such as Darfur, Haiti, or wherever there's conflict or natural disaster. Some of them may be people of faith, but many are not. Their concern is not for this group or that group, but simply for human beings. What drives them is genuine compassion, the determination to alleviate the suffering of others. So I have no doubt that universal compassion can be sustained within a purely secular framework. My old friend Professor Paul Ekman, a pioneer in the science of emotion, once told me that even Charles Darwin, the father of modern evolutionary theory, believed that the love for all living creatures is the most noble attribute of man. I remember very clearly the worldwide response to the Asian tsunami in December of 2004. The outpouring of public concern after that disaster struck me as a powerful illustration of our unity as a human family. It was no isolated case. Similar worldwide responses of care and concern have followed more recent tragedies. In an age where news travels so fast around the world, our sense of community and our concern for those far away from us have grown enormously. In the early 20th century, feelings of nationalism were very strong, while awareness of our entire humanity was quite weak. In those days, people were less aware of what was happening in other regions or other continents. But now, with global media transmitting news at such speed, we have a deeper awareness of the interconnectedness of people everywhere. Together with this, people's concern for humanity as a whole and their recognition of the value of basic human rights seem to be deepening as well. To me, this trend is a source of great optimism about the future. Okay, let's move to Tsongkhapa. And among the crowds, if you have anything that you want to say. But maybe we should do it in an orderly fashion. Maybe
Write
people
your
can.
questions out, we'll collect them. Oftentimes people ask the same question, so we can.
Okay, Tony, I'll let you deal with the questions.
Yes, it's a lot of work. Someone has
So we are relating what His Holiness is teaching in this book to Tsongkhapa's teachings, which stem from Shantideva on exchanging self for others. And in exchanging self for others, as we work towards expanding this sense of responsibility from something that we have towards ourselves, towards our family, towards our community, towards the different groups that we are part of, as we work at expanding this to encompass all beings, there is this technique whereby we recognize the way we identify this sense of self upon our own aggregates, our own parts. And we work towards developing this sense of me and mine towards others. And we apply the whole idea that there is no inherently existent self. There is no core independent me that possesses my aggregates or that is all my parts. That it's a mere imputation that just the idea that I'm saying that my continuum of consciousness imputes upon this particular aggregation of physical and mental parts. Given that there is no absolute or intrinsic basis for that, but that it is merely a convention, there's no reason why I can't extend that feeling or transcend that feeling and actually think of that sense of me towards others, towards all others. And that's what Tsongkhapa is teaching in this, in his great Lamrim, and in the text, the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, volume 2, page 53, the stages of meditation on how to exchange self and others. The phrases exchanging self and others and making oneself others and others oneself do not indicate a training in an attitude which thinks I am others or others' eyes, etc. are mine. They indicate a change in the orientation of the two states of mind, or cherishing yourself and neglecting others, wherein you develop the attitude of cherishing others as you presently do yourself, and neglecting yourself as you presently do others. Therefore, Shantideva's statement above that you must exchange your own happiness for others' suffering means to view cherishing yourself as the enemy, and then to stop emphasizing your own happiness. So you have to work towards seeing your self-cherishing as being a negative. That's what you're working against. That is the enemy. And you have to work at stopping this emphasis on your own happiness. In addition, you must view cherishing others as a good quality. Stop neglecting others' suffering and instead emphasize the removal of their suffering. In brief, this statement means that you remove others' suffering while disregarding your own happiness. Now that's pretty tough. That goes diametrically in opposition to the instinctual, natural way that we behave. And so it's something, well, it's something where I think we have to approach it recognizing the logic behind it, and then working at thinking about it. And if we go through the process of recognizing Shantideva's logic and Tsongkhapa's logic, and we thereby, that mere recognition of the logic, the mere familiarizing ourselves with the concept, will begin the process. That's the first step.
It's a big point. These things do, there is a gradual introduction to reaching, that ability. We just want it right away, and we don't realize if we start simple, it'll work. And you have to give it time.
And we know from our experience that when we were first introduced to this, the idea was sort of, it really went against the grain. And after many years of thinking about it, we at least have an appreciation for the moral purity of that attitude, and that in itself is a step.
Yeah, it's a step. Because the ego wants to accomplish. I'm going to do this. I can do this. Yeah, you can't will it. You have so much habit patterns going in the opposite direction in our continuum. We do need the gradual approach. I mean, I don't know.
You're being very silent.
He worked all day. He's tired. I agree. And he parented.
There are two obstacles to training in this attitude of exchanging self and others. First, you make a categorical differentiation between people who are happy or suffering, yourself and others, making them as different as blue and yellow. Then you accomplish your happiness and remove your suffering because you think of them as mine, and you neglect others' happiness and suffering because you think of them as belonging to others. Therefore, the remedy for this is to make a categorical distinction between self and others as being essentially different. Rather, understand that self and others, so it's not that self and others are inherently different, it's that the idea of self depends on others. The idea of others depends on self. There is a mutual dependence. There is self only just as near and far are relative, self and others are relative. I'm self from my point of view, and others are others from this point of view. But to someone else, I am other.
That's the only way you can possibly.
Therefore, the remedy for this is not to make a categorical distinction between self and others as being essentially different. Rather, understand that self and others are mutually dependent, such that when you are aware of self, you are aware of others, and when you are aware of other, you are aware of self. It is like being aware of near mountains and distant mountains, for example. Relative to your being here, you think of a mountain there in the distance as being a distant mountain. When you go to this distant mountain, you think of it as a near mountain. So the awareness of self and other is not like the awareness of a color, for regardless of what color blue is related to, you are aware of just blue and not aware of some other color. Moreover, Shantideva's compendium of training states, by becoming accustomed to the equality of self and other, the spirit of enlightenment becomes firm. Self and other are interdependent, like this side and the other side of a river. They are false. They are false in the self is not inherently self as opposed to other. The other bank is not itself other in relation to something else. It is this bank. Similarly, self does not exist in its own right. In relation to someone else, it is other. Thus, Shantideva indicates that self and other are merely posited in relation to a particular reference point and do not essentially exist. Well, that demands a lot of
Changing orientation.
contemplation, a lot of analysis. It's not that you should expect by just hearing me read this to get it. On the contrary, this is a concept that we have to, first of all, study and then really think about, and slowly but steadily try to integrate into our way of living. You must remove the obstacle of thinking, I will not make an effort to dispel others' suffering, because others' suffering does not harm me. Now that's the idea that why am I concerned with removing other people's suffering? I'm okay. When we say it, it sounds sort of ugly.
But that's the default.
But that's the way we are. That's our natural.
And that strengthens our false view of ourselves.
It's also not true, right?
What? That it doesn't,
The
of course.
suffering, the suffering of others doesn't matter to you. I mean, it may
Doesn't
not
affect
matter to
us.
you immediately in some obvious sense, but it's
Yeah.
likely going to affect you eventually.
Yes.
It would be like not accumulating wealth in your youth out of fear of suffering in your old age, because you think that your suffering in old age does not harm you, does no harm to you in your youth. Or, as stated in engaging in the bodhisattva deeds, it would be like not alleviating the pain in your foot with your hand, because your foot is other. Old age and youth, or similarly former and future lives, are just illustrations. This principle applies also to morning and evening, former and latter days, and so forth. So, again, these are when we begin to think about why would I develop a concern for others? I have to that doesn't really mean anything to me. That doesn't affect me. Why should I? We really have to, as you have just said, that's wrong. It does affect us. The whole, the idea of not caring for others because their difficulties don't affect me is really as close-minded as thinking about not preparing for the future because it doesn't affect me now. It's the same. And to go further, it's sort of as if the hand were not to help the foot when the foot hurts because they're different. Whether the before and after, the now not working towards the future is part of a certain continuum within my stream of moments of being. The hand and the foot are different parts of the aggregation of the basis for my identifying as me. and we, as part of a community, as a member of the of sentient beings, I am part of this and have a responsibility towards all, which I am working at cultivating. That is the work in our determination to attain. Well, we start by pursuing a happiness that we start by recognizing the suffering that we experience within cyclic existence. And we work towards attaining freedom from that suffering. We work towards attaining a better rebirth. We work towards attaining freedom from cyclic existence, recognizing that there's no place where we can find happiness, true happiness, freedom from suffering. And then recognizing that all others on whom we are so dependent are suffering in the same way we are, and therefore we work towards attaining a state where we can benefit all of them. So the continuum and collection are designated to many moments and to many parts. They do not have a self-sufficient essence. The self of yourself and the self of others must be posited to a collection and a continuum. So self and other are not established by way of an essence that can be posited independently. However, since beginningless time, you have found your own suffering unbearable because you have been conditioned to self-cherishing. Therefore, if you become conditioned to cherishing others, you will give rise to an attitude of finding others' suffering unbearable. That's what we have to work towards. So after you've eliminated the obstacles to cherishing self and other in this way, the actual way to meditate is as follows. Out of attachment to self, your self-cherishing attitude has produced all sorts of undesirable things throughout the beginning of this time of cyclic existence up to now. Although you wanted to make things perfect for yourself, you emphasized your own welfare and engaged in improper methods. You have spent countless eons at this, but have not at all accomplished your own or others' aims. Not only have you not achieved these, you have been tormented only by suffering. If you had placed concern for your own welfare with concern for others, replaced concern for your own welfare with concern for others' welfare, you would certainly have already become a Buddha long ago and would have completely and perfectly accomplished your own aims as well as those of others. As you did not do this, you have spent your time uselessly and laboriously. Make a firm determination by thinking, now I understand the faults of self-cherishing and the benefits of cherishing others. With great effort, rely on mindfulness and vigilance. I will discontinue the present self-cherishing, my greatest enemy, and I will not allow any potential self-cherishing to arise. In this way, frequently stop self-cherishing.
There's the technique.
And
It's a
in
full court press.
so in Shantideva's engaging in the Bodhisattva deeds, he says it this way: self-cherishing has harmed me in all my myriad lifetimes in cyclic existence. We have to really recognize that. We have to recognize the whole idea that we have been born over and over, and we have to recognize how that self-cherishing is the basis for our remaining imprisoned in this vicious circle. You, O mind, though you spent countless eons wanting to accomplish your own welfare, through such hardship you have accomplished only suffering. And also, if formerly you had acted for others' welfare, this condition, which lacks the perfect happiness of Buddhahood, could not possibly have occurred. If formerly you had acted for others' welfare, this condition, which lacks the perfect happiness of Buddhahood, could not possibly have occurred. Thus, neither be self-centered nor support self-centered tendencies. You must train again and again in the attitude of freely giving to all beings your own body, resources, and roots of virtue. And you must work for the welfare of those to whom you give these things. It is wrong to do the opposite. So stop the attitude which sees your own body, resources, and roots of virtue as being for your own purpose. And there we shall stop for this evening.
Aaron, you got names?
No names.
Okay.
I have a name. Jim Simons.
Jim Simons.
Simons, he's a famous. He started out as a famous mathematician. He passed away.
So we've been asked to pray for Jim Simons, a mathematician who passed away. We read the Sutra of the Recollection of the Noble Three Jewels. I prostrate to the Omniscient One. Thus the Buddha Bhagavat Tathagata Arhat Samyatsam Buddha, the learned and virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans, is the Buddha Bhagavat. The Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of the treasures of merit. He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strength cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He is not stained by the realm of desire. He is not stained by the realm of form. He is not affected by the formless realm. He is completely liberated from suffering. He is completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with dhatus. His ayatanas are controlled. He has completely cut the knots. He is completely liberated from extreme torment. He is liberated from craving. He has crossed over the river. He is perfected in all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavat who arise in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the bhumi where he sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavat. The holy Dharma is good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted. It is completely perfect and completely pure. It completely purifies. The Bhagavat teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. Seeing, it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma, which is taught by the Bhagavad, is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha of the great Yana, they enter completely. They enter insightfully. They enter straightforwardly. They enter harmoniously. They are worthy of veneration with joined palms. They are worthy of receiving prostration. They are a field of glorious merit. They are completely capable of receiving all gifts. They are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity. The protector who possesses great kindness, the omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue, I prostrate to the Tathagata. Pure, the cause of freedom from passion, virtuous, liberating from the lower realms. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma, which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha, the community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in these inconceivables, therefore, the fruitions are inconceivable. May they be born in a completely pure realm. We will read the prayer for swift return that His Holiness the Dalai Lama composed for Trungpa Rinpoche's return. Exalted wisdom of all victors gathered in a drop, sole refuge manifest in the form, the one wearing saffron robes, Guru Lobsang Tulang Dorje Chan. Please bear witness here today that our prayers may be fulfilled. We beseech the great torch of doctrine, accomplishing from long ago the vast waves of aspirational prayers. Lord of speech of the victor Lobsang's teachings, spreading them to the ends of the earth by means of explanation and practice. Though holding the commitment, I will invite all beings to be my guests in unsurpassed great awakening, yet you have withdrawn the activities of the form body that serves the welfare of others. Is that worthy of the supreme among beings, the Bodhisattvas? Though impossible for you till cyclic existence end to abandon your commitment to liberate all beings, we beseech the new son of Nirmanakaya to swiftly return to the realm of Dharmakaya, brought forth by Bodhicitta drawn by 7 steeds. Having reached the far limits of scholarship, religious life, and goodness, please come swiftly as unrivaled supreme emanation, full holder of the sage's teachings, and wish-fulfilling jewel. Return as the glory of Losang Tempe, magnificent truth of 3 precious jewels, Mahakala, Karmayama, and Srimati Devi, the ocean of Dharma protectors. May you spontaneously fulfill our wishes, the swift blossoming of the reincarnation's fresh moonlight face. Thank you.
Jake,